Chapter 31 Killing the Evil God Projection, Burnett sends his sister again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a frenzy, Rennes channeled everything he had, the power of his holy light amplified tenfold, and combined with the blinding speed of his Gale Sword Skill, he unleashed his strongest attack, a holy light storm born from merging the two techniques. He was confident this would kill even an Earth Knight. A dazzling tornado of holy light sword chi engulfed the evil god's projection instantly. Roar, but the strike, seemingly a sure thing, missed. Even worse, the mortal's counterattack came so fast, so hard, caught completely off guard. Vagnos roared in agony. For the true demon god, this much holy light wouldn't mean much, but for a projection formed from negative energy, it felt like being doused in sulfuric acid. The evil god's projection flickered and started to fade. However, one strike wasn't enough to obliterate it completely. At the cost of shrinking by half, the shadowy form stabilized. This all happened in less than a second. Damn mortal! I'll turn your soul into lamp oil and burn it in the fires of hell for 10,000 years. Having been humiliated by what he considered an insignificant ant, Vagnos's 3 heads and 6 eyes blazed with fury, blood-sucking. Hellfire ball. Weakening ray. Instantly, a barrage of over a dozen third and fourth circle spells rained down on Rennes, all meant to kill him. Even frenzied, Rennes knew he couldn't withstand that kind of assault head-on. Using the Gale Step, he weaved and dodged around the projection, using his speed and small size to his advantage, occasionally landing a holy light slash. But Vagnos had learned his lesson. He wasn't about to fall for that again. He anticipated the holy light slash and shattered it with magic. The battle became a furious dance, neither side gaining the upper hand. A stalemate. After 9 minutes, Rennes felt the violent power within him start to ebb. His berserk state was fading. I need to end this now. He thought, a ruthless glint in his eyes. If he couldn't finish the fight before the berserk state wore off, he'd be lucky to escape with his life. Just as he prepared to fight to the death, he saw the evil god projection freeze mid-cast. Its form flickered, becoming more transparent, as if about to vanish. Opportunity. Rennes' eyes lit up. The Roland Continent's laws were finally kicking in. The evil god projection was fully occupied resisting the purification of those laws, leaving it vulnerable. Rennes charged forward, unleashing a relentless barrage of holy light slashes. He pushed himself to the limit before his berserk state ended. No. Rennes' assault was the final nail in the coffin. Overwhelmed by the holy light and struggling against the dimensional laws, the evil god projection collapsed. With a final, resentful roar, it was completely purified. All that remained was a 6-sided red crystal, like a gemstone. Finally, Rennes sighed in relief. It had been a close call. If his trump card hadn't been strong enough, he'd be dead. No. This can't be happening. How could a god lose to a mere mortal? Cain and the other 2 cultists stared in disbelief. They had never imagined that the evil god projection they'd summoned at such a cost would be defeated by Rennes. Their faith shattered. Rennes ignored the priest's despair. They were the enemy, and evil had to be eradicated. The summoning had drained the priests, leaving them weak and barely able to move. Rennes raised his hand and unleashed a holy light slash, killing them instantly. All 4 evil god priests attacking Pancher City were gone. The moment he landed the killing blow, Rennes' berserk state ended. He felt a wave of weakness as his power faded, but after a moment, he recovered. He walked to where the evil god projection had died and picked up the red crystal. In this world, anything related to gods and demons was dangerous. But this could be a treasure. He'd take it back and study it later. He put the crystal in his pack and turned towards Pancher City. Time to end this. Star. Without the 4 priests, the remaining cultists were weak and disorganized. Rennes and the Habuz family knights cut through them like butter. After a few more minutes, they'd wiped them all out. Lord Rennes, thank you for your help, Burnett said, approaching Rennes, his tone filled with gratitude and awe. Without Rennes' help, the Blake family would have been ruined. He was now incredibly grateful for his decision to join forces with the Habuz family by marrying Katie. We're family. No need to be formal. Now that the crisis is over, I'll be leaving. Rennes waved his hand dismissively. To be honest, if the Blake family hadn't given him so many gifts and married Katie, with her fairy blood, he wouldn't have risked his neck. That evil god projection almost killed him. Next time, I'm not signing any alliances just for some easy benefits. Even if he signed, he'd make sure he had an out, otherwise, he was going to get himself killed. Sensing Rennes' impatience, Bennett panicked. He knew how powerful Rennes was, he needed to keep him on the Blake family's side, especially now that they were so weak. He needed to improve their relationship. An idea struck him. Baron Rennes was known for marrying beautiful women and having children. He'd marry his other younger sister to Rennes. Lord Rennes, my younger sister, Charlene, admires you greatly and has always wished to marry you. Chapter 32. The title of the God-Killing Night, The End of the Border War. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lord Rennes, Bennett began, a smile plastered on his face. My younger sister, Xiaolin, is your biggest fan and always dreamed of marrying you. Would you consider taking her as your wife? He added, the Blake family is prepared to offer a dowry at least as generous as the one Katie received. Bennett had to stay in Rennes' good graces. The Blake family's survival depended on it. The cultist attacks had severely weakened their forces. Rennes' interest peaked. He hadn't expected Bennett to be so willing, offering his sister and a hefty dowry on top of it. The Blake family's 2 recent losses would take decades to recover from, even with their centuries-old wealth. I will marry your sister, Rennes agreed, seeing Bennett's sincerity in the easy benefits. They were already allies, after all. And, truthfully, Bennett's sister was quite appealing. Katie had fairy blood, so it was likely her sister did too. Another wife who could bear children with that bloodline would be a significant boon. Bennett visibly relaxed, relief flooding his face. He'd secured his connection to Rennes. After finalizing the alliance details, Lord Rennes and his guards departed. The next day, news of Pancher City's heavy losses during the cultist attack spread like wildfire among the surrounding nobility. Alongside the tale of Lord Rennes slaying the evil god's projection, most nobles initially reacted with disbelief. Even a weak projection of an evil god possessed the strength of a land knight, and the Rhine region had barely a handful of experts that powerful. Rennes wasn't one of them. But once the news was confirmed, the nobles were in an uproar. They weren't fools. Rennes' newfound power made the Habsburg family a rising star in the Rhine region. If they didn't establish ties now, it would be too late. The Habsburg estate became a hub of activity. Rennes was swamped with over a dozen noble visitors daily, annoying him to no end. He couldn't even spend time with his family. Eventually, he used the excuse of preparing for his wedding with the Blake family to turn everyone away, which finally calmed things down. 2 more days passed. Today was Rennes' wedding day with Charlotte, the Blake family's second daughter. Early that morning, the Blake family arrived with Charlotte and her dowry. Rennes' reputation for slaying the evil god's projection had drawn a large crowd of nobles to the wedding. Amidst the blessings and well-wishes, Rennes successfully married his 7th wife, Charlotte. While not as stunning as her half-sister Katie, Charlotte was still a beauty, with top-notch looks and temperament. Her skin was incredibly fair, like flawless jade. Rennes was pleased with his new bride. After a lively celebration, Rennes led Charlotte to the bridal chamber to consummate the marriage. Time flew by. Another month passed. The story of Rennes slaying the evil god's projection had become legendary. Baron Rennes was now a household name in the Rhine region. His fame earned him the title Godslayer Knight. As a result, the cultists who once harassed Eagle's Nest now avoided it altogether, afraid of meeting the same fate as those who attacked Pancher City. Rennes' life had been peaceful. Besides the Habsburg family, the Blake family also benefited. Their 2 marriages cemented their connection to the Habsburgs, deterring the cultists from attacking Pancher City again, despite the Blake family's recent losses. Smaller nobles, realizing this, practically lined up at the Habsburg estate, eager to marry their daughters and gain Rennes protection, but Rennes wasn't interested. These nobles couldn't offer generous dowries, nor did they have beautiful daughters with special bloodlines. Thinking they could buy his protection with an ordinary woman was delusional. Rennes decisively rejected them all. 1 month later, after a period of trying, Xiaolin became pregnant. At the same time, Murphy also conceived. Now, all 7 of Rennes' wives were pregnant. Lifa and Jessica were the furthest along, 6 months pregnant. Their children would arrive in about 3 months, and Rennes was eager. Each birth was like opening a blind box, full of surprises. besides the good news of his growing family, there was more to celebrate. The years-long border war had finally ended. The Kingdom of Rennes and the Kingdom of Hillock were both on the brink of bankruptcy due to the prolonged conflict. The leaders of both countries decided to resolve the war quickly, and their main forces clashed in a decisive battle on the western Karka plain. The Kingdom of Rennes emerged victorious, gaining the rights to exploit a massive iron ore mine after the war. The kingdom's leaders immediately lifted the temporary war tax and appeased the lower classes. They also dispatched the Griffin Knights, one of the kingdom's elite knight orders, to suppress rebellions and eliminate cultists throughout the land. Using both carrot and stick, the Kingdom of Rennes quickly restored order, returning to its previous state of calm. The Rhine region was no exception. The Griffin Knights vigorously suppressed bandits, cultists, and opportunistic necromancers. With order restored and trade routes reopened, Rennes immediately restarted his brewery. He had no choice. The Habsburg family had been without significant income for over 2 years and was now relying on Eagle Town's tax revenue to stay afloat. If they didn't start making money soon, they wouldn't be able to support their growing family. Chapter 33 Twin Silver Heirs, promoted to Earth Knights. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 months passed. Rennes had been working hard to revive the beer industry in his territory. Still, the chaos had taken its toll, and everyone was strapped for cash. Plus, beer wasn't exactly a necessity. Sales were dismal, barely reaching 1,000 gold coins in 3 months, a tenth of what they were before everything went sideways. It was going to take a while to get back to the good old days of making a killing, so Rennes had to find new avenues, new industries, new ways to make money. Sugar production became his focus. In this medieval, magic-rich world, sugar was a seriously expensive luxury. A pound of good brown sugar could fetch 10 gold coins. Even the low-grade stuff with impurities went for almost 7 silver. For reference, 1 gold coin equals 10 silver coins equals 100 copper coins. Out in the boonies where sugar was scarce, prices were even higher. You can imagine how profitable it was. If Rennes hadn't already reached a level comparable to a great knight, he wouldn't have dared try to muscle in on this lucrative market. Of course, setting up a sugar factory was no walk in the park even with his knowledge from his past life. And the basic know-how for sugar production, he still needed a ton of high-sugar crops. After weighing his options, Rennes settled on sugar beets as his raw material. While their sugar content wasn't the highest, they had a lot going for them. They weren't picky about growing conditions, matured in just 3 months, and produced high yields, perfect for large-scale sugar production. The catch: growing sugar beets on a large scale took time. The sugar factory couldn't open until they were ready, which meant the Habuz family wouldn't be rolling in dough for a few months. So, Rennes had to dip into the family's savings. He couldn't let 7 wives and 20-plus kids go without. But the dip in the family's fortunes didn't dampen Rennes' spirits. Because he had 2 more kids on the way. Lefa and Jessica were both over 9 months pregnant. Any day now, they were due to pop. 2 days later, Jessica delivered Rennes' 24th child. Unfortunately, the kid wasn't much to write home about. Low-level magic and fighting spirit talent, a black iron rating. The system reward was just 1 year of fighting spirit training as a basic perk. Rennes was disappointed. 3 days later, Lefa went into labor and delivered twins, 2 boys. Detected the birth of the host's 25th child. This offspring has low-level magic aptitude, high-level fighting spirit aptitude, and a silver-level evaluation. Reward: 30 years of fighting spirit cultivation, talent, resilient spirit. Detected the birth of the host's 26th child. The magical aptitude of this offspring is low, while the fighting spirit aptitude is high. Evaluation: silver level. Reward: 30 years of fighting spirit cultivation, talent, extraordinary healing. Lefa had really knocked it out of the park. Twins with high-level fighting spirit talent. That was a silver-level windfall, but thinking about it, it made sense. Kids are a continuation of their parents, bloodlines matter. Lefa became a 5th-rank hunter in her early 20s, showing off her top-notch fighting spirit aptitude. She had it in spades. She was probably close to having extraordinary fighting spirit aptitude. If it wasn't for that incident where she overused her fighting spirit source and damaged her physical potential, Lefa would have almost certainly become a 9th rank hunter, maybe even a 10th. She had the best aptitude of all of Rennes' wives, so, it wasn't that shocking that she popped out a pair of silver-level kids. If we get really lucky, maybe Lifa and I can have the first kid with a golden rating down the road. Rennes was pumped. So far, silver was the highest he'd gotten. A golden-level kid would mean a huge upgrade in rewards. But that was for the future. Right now, he needed to snag those sweet system rewards from his twin boys. Gimme the goods. Rennes muttered to himself. Instantly, a surge of Do-Chi energy materialized in his Chi-Si. It flooded into his Do-Chi origin. The dense Do-Chi origin in Rennes' body felt intense pressure. It started to compress and liquefy. His aura skyrocketed. 10%. 20%. 30%. After absorbing 60 years worth of Do-Chi, the Do-Chi origin in Rennes' body was completely liquid, accompanied by a sound both real and imagined. The transformed Do-Chi energy began to elevate his soul and body. Rennes felt like he was back in the womb, warm and cozy, twice as strong. 3 times as strong. After the transformation, Rennes' body and soul were nearly 10 times stronger. His life force was amplified, transcending the realm of mortals. Promotion successful. Reached the 10th rank, Earth Knight. Chapter 34, 2 Great Innate Abilities, Rewards from the King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Reaching the 10th rank Earth Knight was a real game-changer. Rennes could feel the raw power surging through him, like he could punch a hole in the sky or crack the earth with his bare hands. He knew it was probably just an illusion, a rush from the sudden power boost. Still, it proved he'd become a whole different beast compared to before. With that in mind, Rennes couldn't wait to get out to the monster-infested woods near his land and put his new abilities to the test. He started with the basics: speed, strength, and the raw force of his fighting spirit. After pushing himself, Rennes got a decent handle on his new power. He was practically unstoppable. His speed, strength, and general physical stats were up tenfold, easy, and his fighting spirit. Forget about it. The liquid fighting spirit felt like switching from a firecracker to dynamite. The power was insane. During his tests, he'd channeled his fighting spirit into the Gale Sword technique, Storm Slash, and leveled a small hill, 20-something meters across, in a heartbeat. The destructive force was off the charts. Basically, anyone below the 10th rank was like an ant to him now. He could squash them without even trying. Besides the strength boost, Rennes noticed his lifespan had gotten a serious upgrade, too. This jump in power had changed him on a fundamental level, pushing him beyond human limits. He could probably live for 200 years, no problem. Is this power surge and lifespan extension from becoming an Earth Knight maybe a little much? Once he calmed down, Rennes realized something was off. According to the family history books, a 5-fold increase in physical ability was impressive after hitting Earth Knight status, and a lifespan of 150 years was considered the norm. His improvement was clearly double the standard. Assuming he wasn't just some super genius. The answer had to be in how he broke through. Normally, most people cultivating their fighting spirit have maybe a 70 to 80% shot at actually breaking through. But to guarantee success, he'd used the Goldfinger cheat, filling his Chi-Si until the breakthrough happened naturally. That meant he'd used way more fighting spirit than usual to break through. And the transformation of body and soul at rank 10 was clearly tied to how much fighting spirit you used. More fighting spirit, more intense. The transformation. Guess I just stumbled into a jackpot, Rennes said, grinning to himself. You try too hard, nothing happens. You don't try at all, and bam. You win. This was a huge win. Back at Habs Manor, Rennes suddenly remembered the other 2 talents the system had given him. The last one, invincibility in a berserk state, had been a lifesaver, so, naturally, his expectations were high. The new abilities had already fused into him during his training. After a quick mental dive, Rennes had the rundown on his new talents. Talent: Resilient Spirit, effect: massively boosts soul strength, immune to mind magic below rank 3, and highly resistant to higher level mind magic. Talent: Extraordinary Healing, effect: massively boosts cell activity, provides troll-level self-healing, as long as vital organs like the brain and heart aren't totally wrecked. Any remaining injuries will heal completely. Note: the worse the injury, the more energy it takes to heal. Unlike the no-injury frenzy talent, these were both passive abilities, and super useful. One gives him a mental shield, stopping mind control and turning him into a puppet against mind sorcerers. The other cranks his healing up to 11, making him a tank in a fight. These two talents covered his weaknesses big time. His fighting power had just jumped up a few more levels. If he ran into that evil god projection again, he was confident he could smash it in under 5 minutes. So, in the kingdom of Lance, I'm pretty much a top dog now, right? Rennes thought, a warm feeling of security washing over him. Another 2 weeks went by, then, one day, envoys from the kingdom of Lance showed up at Eagle's domain. They were there on the king's orders to give Rennes a reward. After all, Rennes had proven he was a force to be reckoned with by destroying the evil god's projection. Even the king of Lance wasn't going to underestimate someone that powerful, winning him over with gifts was just smart. This time, the king of Lance gave Rennes the title of count. He also gave him the surrounding 100 square kilometers around Eagle's domain as his fiefdom. You could say the king was being pretty generous. Rennes was all smiles and accepted the king's gesture. After seeing the royal envoys off, Evelyn was beyond excited. She thought it was a defining moment for the Habuz family. It needed a huge celebration. Rennes was on board with his mother's idea. He'd climbed 2 ranks in a row. From low-level baron to count, the family's land had grown tenfold. Something this big deserved a real party. A few days later, a huge, over-the-top celebration kicked off as planned. Everyone was eager to suck up to the new Count Rennes. Counts, barons, noble lords from the entire Rhine region showed up, over 100 people in total. As the star of the show, Rennes greeted each guest personally. With Janice and the others at his side, his face was practically frozen from smiling so much. The party went on for days before finally winding down. After it was all over, the nobles of the Rhine region had a new opinion of the Habuz family. Reputation, status, power, all there. The Habuz family had officially entered the ranks of the Rhine region's top nobles. Chapter 35. The eldest son marries a wife and has children, the hidden mechanism of Goldfinger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time really does fly. 3 years zipped by just like that. During that time, Janice, Layla, Murphy, Charlene, and Jessica each gave Rennes 2 kids. Katie and Lifa, Rennes VIPs, topped them all, each having 3, in total. Rennes brood grew by 16 in those 3 years. Most of those 16 kids were black iron level, only 5 were bronze, and just 1 was silver. So, overall, the quality wasn't great. However, the sheer number of kids earned Rennes a bunch of system rewards. He got 119 years added to his cultivation, 2 bottles of low-grade aptitude improvement potions, over 10 attribute points for physique and strength, and a 6-star combat technique, Void Charge. It makes you temporarily invulnerable to physical and elemental damage while you charge forward at high speed, basically, a pseudo-invincible charge. After soaking up those rewards, Rennes' strength jumped considerably. His cultivation broke through from the 10th stage to the 11th. Besides his personal growth, the family business thrived. Beer sales steadily bounced back and the white sugar made from sugar beets at the sugar factory became a huge hit. The massive profits from the sugar and beer industries quickly filled the Habsburg family coffers. Still, a big family and business comes with big expenses. The Habsburg family's fiefdom now covers over 100 square kilometers. Ding. This offspring has no magical aptitude and low fighting spirit aptitude. Black iron level. You gained 1 year of fighting spirit cultivation. But outside of Xiongning town, it's mostly uninhabited wilderness. Rennes plans to recruit free citizens to build 6 new towns on that land. Such a huge project needs a mountain of gold coins, plus, Rennes Family Intelligence Network, Shadow, requires a lot of cash to keep expanding. Each of these requires hundreds of thousands of gold coins. If Rennes couldn't invest in batches and the sugar and beer businesses weren't bringing in money every day, the Habsburgs would probably be broke. 3 months later, something big happened in the Habsburg family. Red was getting married. Rennes' firstborn, Red, turned 18 this year. The baby who used to cry for milk 10 years ago was now a 6-foot-plus young man. It hit Rennes hard. Time really does fly, in the blink of an eye. Kids grow up. According to Roland Continent customs, it was time for Red to get married and settle down, but Red definitely couldn't inherit the Habsburg title and family business. His father was still alive, and even if Rennes wanted to step down, Red wasn't Habsburg material. In aptitude, strength, and intelligence, other kids with higher evaluations blew Red, with his black iron ranking, out of the water. So, Red would inevitably have to establish his own branch after talking with Red to get his thoughts. Rennes worked hard to find a good match for his eldest son. The bride-to-be was the eldest daughter of the Carlock Baron family, Shilia. She was a gentle and beautiful young lady who could handle Red's impulsive personality. Most importantly, the current generation of the Carlock family was all daughters, and the head of the Carlock family was in his 50s and couldn't have any more kids. If Red married Shilia, he'd inherit the Baron title and the Carlock family estate. It was a win-win. An opportunity like that was rare. Of course, the head of the Carlock family knew Rennes' angle, but he was happy with the arrangement. The Carlock family was a small, up-and-coming family. If Red married Shilia and became the head of the Carlock family, the Habsburg family's support would ensure the Carlocks prospered. Another win-win. Rennes and Janice's parents reached an agreement. The marriage was quickly arranged. They found a good date. As parents, Rennes and Janice threw a huge wedding for Red at the Habsburg family estate. Jessica's 6 daughters showed up in their best outfits. After all, they were Red's stepmothers. Showing up was the right thing to do. The wedding also drew a lot of nobles. Even the Earl's family sent their legitimate son as their representative to watch the ceremony. With so many people there, the scene was wild. Before the wedding kicked off, Rennes, as the host and the most powerful noble, naturally became the center of attention. Dozens of nobles swarmed around Rennes, trying to strike up a conversation. Lettice, head of the Carlock family, soon to be Rennes-in-law, got attention from a bunch of baron nobles. Lettice, who had always been a nobody in the local noble scene, was thrilled. He also felt proud of his decision to marry into the Habsburg family. The wedding lasted all day. After it was over, Rennes and his new bride left the Habsburg manor together and headed for the Carlock family's territory. That would be their new home. Over a year later, Rennes got good news. His eldest son, Red, and his wife, Cilia, had a baby, a boy. He and Janice had a grandson. With the birth of the 3rd generation, Rennes' golden ticket, the family system, finally reacted, detected the birth of the host's first grandson. This offspring has no magical aptitude and low fighting spirit aptitude. Black iron level. Reward: 6 months of fighting spirit cultivation. Dragon Boat Festival book deals. Top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Grab the top up now. Promotion period, June 22nd to June 24th. Chapter 36: Dreaming of becoming the eldest daughter of a female general. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Detected the birth of the host's first grandson. Offspring's magical aptitude, none. Fighting spirit aptitude, low. Evaluation, black iron level. Reward: 6 months of fighting spirit cultivation. Wait, I get rewards for my son's kids too. Rennes was surprised by the system notification. He'd always figured the system rewards were just for his direct offspring. This was a welcome surprise. Thinking about it, though, it made sense. This was the family system. His son was family, and a grandson strengthened the bloodline. Rewards were logical. For Rennes, this was all upside. But the reward seems a little stingy. Rennes frowned, staring at the message. A kid rated black iron should net a year of fighting spirit cultivation, minimum, only 6 months. Was the system skimming off the top? After a quick look, Rennes spotted a note at the bottom. Note: beyond direct bloodline descendants, offspring only grant cultivation rewards. Each subsequent generation receives half the cultivation reward of the previous generation. So, no chance of inspiring my kids and grandkids to greatness by popping out babies. Rennes sighed. It was one thing if items and skills didn't carry over, but having the cultivation rewards each generation. Grandkids get half, great-grandkids get a quarter, then an eighth, a 16th. What kind of game was this? Of course, if he had enough descendants, the total dochi cultivation could add up, but that would take ages, which wasn't much help right now. Time flowed on. Before he knew it, Rennes and Janet's first few kids had grown up, including Red. The first 5 were all rated black iron. Their dochi and magic aptitudes were average at best. Even with Rennes' support and training since they were kids, they barely reached the 2nd stage night level. Without some incredible luck, becoming intermediate knights was their ceiling. Rennes didn't have huge expectations for them. He just wanted them to be safe, happy, and pursue their own interests, and they did. Some liked business, others craved adventure. With Rennes' help, they did pretty well. Their families and careers thrived, they were living the good life. The sixth child, Hilda, was different. She was a girl and she was the first bronze-level offspring Rennes and Janet had. She possessed near-advanced intermediate Do-Chi aptitude, combined with all the resources and support Rennes poured into her since childhood. Hilda reached the 4th stage of strength by 18, at this rate, she could easily break through to the 7th stage and become an advanced knight. Rennes originally wanted to send her to the Knight Academy in the capital of the Lance Kingdom, but Hilda had other plans. Like the name Rennes gave her, Hilda wanted to join the army and become a battlefield general. Rennes wasn't thrilled. The battlefield was dangerous, he didn't want to get a message about his daughter dying, but Hilda was firm, he couldn't change her mind. To give his daughter a better shot and keep her safe, Rennes decided to have her join the Lionheart Legion, the army he'd served in when he was younger. The Lionheart Legion was one of the Lance Kingdom's 3 elite knight orders. With Hilda's talent, she would stand out. 3 days later, Rennes learned the Lionheart Legion would be recruiting that week. He immediately prepared to take Hilda to the Lance Kingdom capital, D-Bit, Habs Manor. Hilda, be careful in the army. Don't be reckless. Write to us. Jenny fussed, she wasn't happy about her daughter joining up either, but Hilda was determined. All she could do was support her dream. I will. Hilda, dressed in magical armor, nodded. She knew her mom meant well. Mom, I'm leaving. Take care. Hilda turned to Jessica and the others. You take care, too. If anyone messes with you, write to us. We've got your back. Jessica and the others were sad to see her go. Hilda wasn't their biological daughter, but they'd raised her. After all these years, their bond was strong, they felt like she was their own. Let's go. After saying goodbye to their wives and Hilda, Rennes and his daughter got on their horses. Then, with a dozen guards, they left Eagle Town. Jenny and the others watched, teary-eyed, as Rennes and Hilda rode away. They didn't go back inside until they were completely out of sight. Chapter 37, A PY Transaction with the Head of the Legion, a letter from the eldest son. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The town of Xiongning was over 1,200 miles from D-Bite, the capital of the Lance Kingdom. Even riding a wind steed, a creature with Warcraft blood that could cover hundreds of miles a day, it would still take Rennes and his group about 5 days to get there. Rennes used that travel time wisely. He wanted to give his daughter a head start and help her shine in the Legion, so Rennes shared everything he knew with Hilda. He talked about military strategies he remembered from his past life and how to deal with people. If she really took it all to heart, and combined it with her talent for combat aura, Hilda had the potential to become a powerful battlefield commander. Hilda, realizing how valuable her father's lessons were, studied hard. Those 5 days flew by. After days of travel, Rennes and his daughter finally arrived in D-Bite City. As the kingdom's capital, D-Bite was booming. The streets were wide enough for 4 carriages to ride side by side. People bustled everywhere. Every so often, they'd see warriors in armor and mages in robes. They strolled through the city with his daughter. Then, Rennes took Hilda to the Lionheart Legion's recruitment office. The line to enlist in the Lionheart Legion stretched on forever. Thousands of people were waiting. After all, the Lionheart Legion was one of the kingdom's elite knight orders. The benefits were way better than those of regular armies. For ordinary citizens without special training, or young nobles who didn't have many resources, passing the Lionheart Legion's recruitment assessment was like hitting the jackpot. It was a ticket into the world of extraordinary abilities, a chance to change their lives. You can imagine how eager they were to join. Of course, getting into the Legion wasn't easy. The Lionheart Legion had pretty high standards. You needed the potential to develop chi, and you couldn't be older than 18, you also had to be twice as physically fit as the average person. Only then could you pass the first stage and become a recruit. The next stage was developing chi within 3 months and becoming a rank 0 knight. If you couldn't do that, you were out of the Lionheart Legion and sent to the regular army. With that kind of process, the Legion was lucky if 5 out of every 100 applicants made it in. When Rennes was young, he hadn't passed the second test himself. His father had to grease some palms and use his connections to keep him in. Thinking back, Rennes felt a little dazed. Time really does fly. It had been over 30 years in the blink of an eye. Dad, Are you okay? Hilda asked, seeing her father looking lost in thought. I'm fine. Just thinking about the old days. Let's head inside. Rennes snapped back to reality, patted Hilda on the head, and smiled. As a count, he didn't have to wait in line like everyone else. He told the guards who he was, and they immediately saluted. One of them ran to tell their commanding officer. A minute later, a legion commander named Dilius came out of the camp. He personally welcomed Rennes and his group inside. Lord Count Rennes, what brings you to the Lionheart Legion? Commander Dilius asked politely. My daughter wants to join the Lionheart Legion. Rennes cut straight to the point. Commander Dilius frowned. He'd seen noble daughters join the military before. Most of them had just read a few biographies about famous female generals. They couldn't handle the military life and quit after a couple of months. He figured the count's daughter would be the same. Plus, the Lionheart Legion was all men. Not a single woman. Bringing in a young, attractive woman would definitely cause problems. He didn't want that kind of headache. No upside, and a lot of potential for trouble. Sensing the commander's hesitation, Rennes spoke again. Hilda has been training with me since she was a kid. She's already a rank 4 knight and won't let the Legion down. Rennes pulled out a gold certificate worth 5,000 gold coins and handed it to Dilius. The certificate was from the Lance Kingdom's biggest bank. Anyone could trade it for the equivalent amount of gold. Seeing how generous Rennes was, Dilius quickly swallowed his refusal. He smiled and said, no problem. Starting today, your daughter will be a captain in my knights. Your daughter is so young and already has the potential to become a powerful female general. Rennes couldn't help but think about how much power and money really mattered. He'd started as an ordinary knight and retired as one, but because of his help, his daughter was starting out as a captain of 10 knights. A huge difference. Of course, Hilda was a rank 4 knight and could definitely handle the job. No need to worry about her not being up to it. I hope you'll look after my daughter, Commander. After sealing the deal, Rennes exchanged a few words with Dilius and left with his people. He'd accomplished his goal. There was no reason to stay. 5 days later, after leaving Dibbet City, Rennes and his group were back at the Habs family's estate. As soon as they arrived, Rennes got a letter from his eldest son. Read, it said he should make time to visit the Carlock family. The letter didn't say why. What's this kid up to? Being all mysterious and teasing me. Rennes laughed and playfully cursed after reading the letter. Still, his son had invited him, so he had to go, no matter what. Chapter 38 Magic Spar Veins, Precious Elemental Crystals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, before dawn, Rennes and a dozen bodyguards were speeding toward the Carlock family lands, east of the Rhine. It was a good 400 kilometers from Schöning, and it took them most of the day to get there. After announcing who they were, the Carlock family butler showed Rennes to a guest room. A minute later, a tall, muscular guy who looked a lot like Rennes came rushing in. They were obviously related. Dad, you finally made it. Red exclaimed, excited to see him. You're a father yourself, act like it. No need to be so impulsive, Rennes said, and gave Red a light smack on the head. Red's excitement vanished, replaced by a resentful glare. Spit it out. What's so important that you had to write me a letter? Rennes asked, sipping his tea, curious about what his son had to say. Dad, I've made an incredible discovery, Red said, finally getting serious. Oh yeah? What's that? Rennes asked. We were prospecting for minerals on our land a while back and found a small magic crystal vein hidden in a little mountain valley. Red said without preamble. A magic crystal vein? Rennes exclaimed, shocked. That was serious money. Magic crystals are special crystals that naturally accumulate a ton of magic power. Mages can draw that power out of them to speed up their training. They're also used to make magical gear, set up magic arrays, all sorts of things. They're rare and valuable. A standard magic crystal, about an inch square, can fetch 500 gold coins on the open market. And a whole vein could yield tens of thousands of them. It was easy to see how valuable this small vein was. You lucky dog, Rennes said, shaking his head. This was a multi-million gold coin windfall, enough to rival the accumulated wealth of an aristocratic family that had been around for centuries. If Red wasn't his son, he might have been tempted to take it for himself. That gave Rennes a good idea of why his son had called him here. He either wanted to sell the vein, or partner with the Habsburgs to mine it. The Karliks were too weak to protect such a valuable find. One wrong move and the family could just disappear from the Rhine region. But the Habsburgs, with Rennes as their knight, could definitely protect it. Sure enough, Red spoke. "Dad, the Karliks can't hold on to this kind of find. I want to sell you the vein for 500,000 gold coins. Straight to the point. No need for games between father and son." "All right," Rennes said after thinking for a moment. 500,000 gold coins sounded like a lot, but for a magic crystal vein, it was a steal. Of course, strength mattered most. The weak didn't have any real choices. Another noble might have tried to buy the Karliks out for a few thousand gold coins. If they refused, the entire family might have an accident. But he wasn't going to treat his own son like that. They settled the deal and immediately headed out on horseback for the valley. After about 10 minutes, they arrived. Red led him to a freshly dug cave and deeper inside. The walls shimmered with amethysts of all shapes and sizes, pulsing with mysterious energy. They were pure and bright. Rennes felt a thrill. These were definitely magic crystals. And the quality was high. "Our miners estimate the vein can produce 12 to 16 tons of magic crystals, along with associated ores," Red said. Rennes listened as he channeled Do-Chi into his hands and started digging deeper into the cave. The deeper he went, the more magic crystals he found, and the better the quality. He even found rare elemental crystals, essential for making high-level elemental magic wands. Depending on the purity, an elemental crystal could fetch 50 to 140,000 gold coins. The one he just dug out was a fire crystal. The quality was decent. A mage would pay at least 80,000 gold coins for it. This little vein is loaded with goodies. Rennes thought. The quality was better than he'd hoped. If the whole thing was like this, they could double its value without a problem. The Habsburgs were about to strike it rich. Chapter 39 Inheritance of Legendary Occupation, Arcane Knight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After getting the full picture, Rennes immediately started hand-picking reliable people to secretly mine this small mithril vein. He wanted to make sure all the profits from this vein went directly to him. The Habsburg family could probably hold on to the vein by force, but if other nobles caught wind of it, they'd band together and pressure the Habsburgs for a cut, and that was the last thing he wanted. Mining in secret was the key. As long as they hauled all the rare minerals back home before the news got out, nobody could force the Habsburgs to give up what was already theirs. It was a no-brainer. However, completely mining this mithril vein in a short amount of time wasn't going to be easy, especially if secrecy was the top priority. Obviously, you couldn't have a huge workforce digging around. More people meant a bigger target and a higher risk of leaks. Plus, all that mithril, and the other minerals that came with it, needed to be transported and stored. That was a whole other headache. After all, people weren't blind. You couldn't just haul everything out in broad daylight, using a ton of carriages, without someone figuring out what was going on. After a lot of thought, Rennes decided to take matters into his own hands, bringing his guards to mine the mithril vein himself. With the strength and stamina of someone like him, their mining efficiency would be through the roof. They could stash the mined minerals temporarily in the small mountain valley. Then, once the vein was completely tapped, he'd personally escort everything back to Xiongning town. Rennes was confident in his own abilities. He was no slouch. With his level of Do-Chi and his high-level star-rated combat skills, he might not be invincible in the Rhine region, but he could definitely hold his own. After careful planning, Rennes got to work immediately. He even dragged his eldest son, Red, along as a strong back. Father and son, with more than 10 knights at their side, dug day and night for half a month. Finally, they completely mined the magic crystal vein. They hauled out about 13 tons of magic crystals of all qualities, plus more than 10 elemental crystals with different properties. The whole haul was worth around 7 million gold coins. That was enough to make anyone lose their mind. If this got out, it'd be a major scandal in the entire Rhine region. On the way back to Xiongning town, Rennes was on high alert. constantly using his swift sword technique to listen to the surrounding environment. He wanted to be ready for anything, but, other than a few nocturnal creatures out hunting, they didn't run into any trouble. The trip was smooth sailing. 8 hours later, just as the sun was coming up, Rennes and his crew arrived at Xiongning town. They unloaded all the magic crystals and elemental crystals from the transport carriage into the Habs family treasury. That's when Rennes finally let out a sigh of relief. After all this time, he'd finally brought these precious resources home. He took a shower and changed out of his dirty mining clothes. Then, Rennes shared the good news with his wives. They were thrilled to hear about Rennes' big score, especially Jessica, who had the strongest magical aptitude. She was practically giddy with excitement. With all those magic crystals and elemental crystals, she could easily become a 10th-tier Grand Mage. Jessica jumped up and gave Rennes a big kiss. Of course, they understood the importance of keeping this a secret. With that many magical resources, they'd be swimming in envy, and that's when the trouble would start. So, they decided to keep a low profile. Quietly making a fortune was the name of the game. Rennes knew the drill. As soon as he got back, he ordered everyone to keep their mouths shut. He handed out plenty of treasure as a reward and made everyone sign confidentiality agreements. He wanted to make sure his people wouldn't accidentally spill the beans, and it worked like a charm. There was never a peep about the magic crystal vein. In the days that followed, Rennes was busier than ever. With all the magic crystals he'd found, he could kick his territory development plans into high gear. The design of 6 new towns, the allocation of funds, all that stuff needed his personal touch. But, even with all that on his plate, Rennes made sure to spend quality time with his wives. After all, having kids meant more system rewards and more power. Under his diligent cultivation, 7 wives ended up pregnant. 10 months later, Janice was the first to go into labor. She gave birth to a girl. This was Rennes' 43rd child. According to the system, this kid had low magic aptitude, medium fighting spirit aptitude, and was rated bronze level. The system rewarded him with 10 years of fighting spirit cultivation, but no material rewards. 5 days later, the Black sisters, Katie and Charlene, gave birth. 2, both had boys, detected the birth of the host's 44th child. This offspring has medium magic aptitude, medium fighting spirit aptitude, and is evaluated as bronze level. Reward, 10 years of fighting spirit cultivation, potion for medium magic aptitude. Detected the birth of the host's 45th child. This offspring has high magic aptitude, high fighting spirit aptitude, hidden bloodline, fairy, after bloodline awakening, can obtain extraordinary abilities such as natural affinity and plant manipulation, and is evaluated as silver level. Reward, 30 years of fighting spirit cultivation, legendary profession Arcane Knight inheritance. 1. Dragon Boat Festival book sale. Top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Grab the top up now. Promotion period, June 22nd to June 24th. Chapter 40 Incomplete Inheritance, Inauguration Ceremony of Legendary Profession. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The system chimed, host's 44th child detected, average magical aptitude, average fighting spirit aptitude. Bronze level. Reward, 10 years of fighting spirit cultivation, average magical aptitude. Host's 45th child detected, high magical aptitude, high fighting spirit aptitude. Hidden bloodline, fairy, awakening unlocks natural affinity and plant manipulation. Silver level. Reward, 30 years of fighting spirit cultivation, legendary class, Arcane Knight inheritance. Charlene's child, like Janice's, was also evaluated as bronze, but Katie was different. Years later, another silver-level child with fairy bloodline had been born, and the system reward was incredibly generous, offering a legendary class inheritance. On the Roland continent, the term legendary class wasn't used lightly. Every legendary class granted unimaginable power. They could reach their peak and attain power comparable to the gods. This wasn't just boasting. It was based on fact. 30,000 years ago, Eldest, the creator of the Grand Arcanist class, a spin-off from the Mage Path, attempted to usurp the magic goddess Mitrasla, using a 13-ring divine ascension spell, and he succeeded, almost. His arcane power overwhelmed the defenseless goddess. However, before fading away, Mitrasla cursed Eldest with her last bit of power. both perished. Vanishing from existence, the other gods, fearing a similar fate, immediately wiped out all Grand Arcanist inheritances. While other legendary classes might not be as extreme, they could still slay dragons and ancient gods at their peak. Naturally, such powerful classes were rare, at least in the Kingdom of Lance. No one had ever heard of anyone with a legendary class. Time to hit the jackpot, Rennes thought. Understanding the value of this legendary class inheritance, he eagerly accepted the reward. Instantly, his brain began to change, his mental power shifted, and his affinity for elemental energy increased dramatically. He received the Arcane Knight inheritance. The download of the legendary class took longer than expected, about half an hour. The origin of the Arcane Knight class is incredible, Rennes thought. Arcane Knight, a knight who wields the secrets of the world's origin. It was created by the great arcane mage who killed the goddess of magic for his son. The class built upon knightly training and incorporates ascension magic. After a special arcane ritual, one could connect to the world's origins and gain miraculous blessings with each level. The arcane ritual transformed the body, enhancing spellcasting abilities. Users naturally gain advanced material-free spellcasting and instant casting talents, defensive, offensive, mobile, and with explosive long-range output. It had almost no weaknesses. The class was incredibly powerful. Unfortunately, the inheritance is incomplete. Rennes sighed. The Arcane Knight class inheritance had 3 parts. The first part was the foundation, explaining how to become an Arcane Knight and receive the world's blessing. The second part was the skill tree, containing unique combat techniques and thousands of arcane effects. The third part was the talent specialization tree, containing training methods for over 20 legendary specializations. He only received the first part. The other 2 were missing, but it made sense. It was just a reward for a silver-ranked child. Expecting a complete legendary class inheritance was unrealistic. He was lucky to get even this much. Rennes discarded his disappointment. After a week spent managing the territory, Rennes began preparing for the transition from paladin to archmage. Arranging the special arcane ceremony was complicated. A requirement for becoming a legendary class, the core of the ceremony required the elemental core, a high-level magical material obtainable only by killing an elder elemental in the elemental plane. Each one cost millions of gold coins. The 4 cores, wind, fire, earth, and water, would cost 4 million gold coins total. Other materials were cheaper but still valuable. Without the magic crystal mine, Rennes couldn't have afforded the materials. 3 months later, after spending over 5,300,000 gold coins, Rennes finished the arcane ceremony. Everything was ready. Rennes took a deep breath and confidently stepped into the magic array. Then, he activated the ceremony.